Welcome to That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Join hosts Nick Koziel and Christine Green as they spotlight the incredible leaders, visionaries, and innovators shaping Rochester and the 585 community. From transformative stories to big ideas, we celebrate the people making our community a better place to live, work, and thrive. So sit back, relax, and listen to what makes the 585 sound terrific.
Welcome to That Sounds Terrific in the 585 with hosts Nick Koziel and Christine Green. Today we have Clianda Florence here at the podcast and on video with us, and she's going to tell us amazing things about all the work she does. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy workday. We're going to have all kinds of questions for you, but let's start right at the very beginning. Give us a brief introduction to who you are, starting with, are you a Rochesterian? Are you a transplant to the area?
No, born and raised in Rochester, New York. So
Nice.
I've
Nice.
been here since August 29th, 1980.
Nice,
Wow.
nice.
Awesome.
So tell us, before we get, and we want to get into the LIT program, of course, but let's give the readers a little bit of your background, who you are, what your work is on a day-to-day basis, and how you've come to where you are today, and then we can start talking about LIT.
Sure. So, as everyone has heard, my name is Clianda Florence, and I am a mother of three wonderful children. Ian is my middle. He's 19 in college, and my eldest, Brianda, she's 24 in nursing, and my youngest is just turned 14. So I have everybody a little everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mama
We can
on the
relate.
move. Yeah, mom on the move. And let's see, I've been in education for over 20 years. So I'm a graduate of the Rochester City School District. I went to Bennett College for women and pursued psychology after I was going to be a chemical engineer, but then that pivoted after my senior little projects when I had to research what they really do. I was like, not for me. And then I just came back and started substitute teaching. And one of the principals at 16 school, when I was doing a long-term assignment, she like called me in her office. I was like, oh Lord, what done happened here? And she was like, so I just called a friend at Nazareth, and I know you're getting your master's in social work and you're a semester away from graduating, but you need to kick that to the curb because teaching comes naturally and you need to start this program because I've already told them about you. And I was like, you've got to be joking me. But I did. I withdrew from the program and started my master's in education. And from there, I went to, let's see, charter. Then I went to Buffalo for 3 years. Then I went to suburbia. Then I went to and started my own little things, my own little LLC and nonprofit. And then I was a co-executive director. So I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to bet on me and to do things that I love to do. And I always noticed that literacy had been the foundation that has cracked, especially in urban education, and that many families were the forgotten side dish that was only brought out to the table when it was time to get funding or when there was a behavioral problem, and that many of our parents were pushed out and felt that they were not needed. And I said to myself, you know, when I'm given the opportunity to do things my way, I want the family to be centered because I was raised in a space where, as a family, I saw my parents and grandparents always a part of the community. My grandfather was a civil rights activist here in Rochester. He started the Fight organization back in 1965. He went up against Kodak. All of his work is at the University of Rochester. He created Fight Village, which is affordable housing that's been there for over 50 years. He was a minister. So my grandma, my nana, which is my mom's mom, and my mom and dad. I was always at district meetings. I was always at marches. I was always in the midst of seeing the importance of the other. And that is one thing I wanted to immerse my own children in is understanding that you are experience certain life stories to help someone else build a better life story for themselves. So that's, just a little snippet about me and what I've been doing on this little earth for 44 years.
There's a lot in there, and
Yeah, there is.
you're like a career student, and I hope that somebody along the line paid for one of those masters for you because that
No,
is, oh my God,
no.
so expensive to be almost done and then like start a, did anything transfer?
I
Some,
guess some things, but
oh
not too
geez.
many. Not
But
too
the
Oh,
many.
education isn't
yeah,
lost. You still took
no.
those classes, right? Yeah, that's what
Right.
you know what I mean?
No, but she's probably still paying those student loans.
That part.
I
They
am,
can't take the knowledge from you, but that money
yeah.
they can sure come after you for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're not going to be able to like withdraw the knowledge from you, but they are going to withdraw from your bank account.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, jokes aside, I mean, like I said, there's a lot in there that to unpack and a lot that you're doing, and like you seem like a very motivated like person. Like, can I just have a general question of like what motivates you to do what you do?
Well, my roots were and are in the church, and that has been the foundation that has cultivated for me the importance of resilience, of faith, of tenacity, of zeal, of understanding that life is a journey, not a destination, that you're going to have to go down on beaten paths. And if you're not grounded, you're going to be pulled in so many different directions that life in its uncertainty throws at you, that it could literally cause you to crumble. And life has hit me in various um, points to where I don't know if you all remember back in 2021, did you remember hear about a family that was let's see, evicted back in 2021 in Cornhill
Mm.
on
I
like the
don't remember
claim.
specifically. It might
Yeah.
come back to me
So
later.
that and this was during the rent moratorium and how that all kicked off.
Mhm.
So that was me and my children.
Jeez.
And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and that was during a time when my nana was sick. She had dementia, and I moved back to the city to be closer to her. And I was staying in Cornhill, and it was headed by a slumlord. It was rats all in the townhouse. And you try to work with people, you try to articulate yourself, and in the end, you get the short end of the stick. And Assemblyman Meeks happened to come and they arrested all of us. And from that, and again, it's about resilience. And I said all that to say that our story was bought on the assembly floor. And it was because of my family's unwavering stance that created the pathway for the rent moratorium to come into place that protected many families who did not know how to advocate for themselves, did not know how to manipulate. When I say manipulate, knowing how to move within varied
Yeah.
systems to be able to fight for their rights. And I told my children, I said, although we've lost everything temporarily, I said, look at the doors that have been open for other people who did not have a way. And understand that although it feels lonely, people, I don't know how they like got my number and my email. Like some people were like, oh my God, thank you for standing. And others were like, you're a horrible mother. You're this, you're
Mm.
that. So I said, standing at times can be very lonely when you're standing for what's right. I said, but I was always taught, if not you, then who?
Hmm.
And if you've been given the voice, if you've been given certain gifts, to whom much is given, much is also required. So don't ever think more highly of yourself than you ought. Don't ever get so comfortable that you're not able to walk in someone else's shoes. So now, as an educator, my resilience and my fire was so much more brighter because many of my students who were nomadic, who lost everything, I now was able to advocate and stand for them different because I walked that. I know what it was like to lose everything and have to stay with a friend and get your dogs back because they wouldn't let you give them to someone else in your family and to have to rebuild your whole life that you had created. And also, my son's at McQuaid and he's in his 10th grade year. And how is he going to show up? Because this was so public and it was everywhere. And I had to lean into my faith in a way that I never had to before. But the resilience that I gained, the voice that I gained, gave me a fire to go harder and to speak for those who felt that their voice meant nothing to the community. So I am seeing my faith in a different perspective because it's different to grow up and you go to church because your parents, this is what they do. But it takes on a different scope and sequence when that is all you have at the end of the day, when people you thought would be there to support you become your enemy in disguise, when the
Hmm.
system that was meant to uplift you becomes the very thing that tries to annihilate the very existence, you got to move different. And that's what I said to my children. I said, mommy wants you all to understand that God blesses us to not only be a blessing, but to live that way. And I want you all, even if I'm no longer here, to know when we drop in this thing called life, your ripples mean something. You may not live to see how far that ripple goes, but when you drop, let it be meaningful.
Wow. It's so powerful.
That is
Like,
very powerful.
how
And
do I
that
follow up on
I know.
that?
Well, I can try.
Go ahead, Christine.
So I want to talk about Get Lit.
Mhm.
Before I do that, I want to ask, are you a speaker? Have you done motivational speaking or been a guest at places where you've stood up and spoken? Because everything you just said
Hmm.
is very powerful and very moving and motivating. Have you ever done that or considered doing that?
Actually, I do. That's what pushed me to do or create my LLC, which is Strength to Say, Strength, the number two, and Say. I self-published two books of poetry called, and this is for adults. You got to be at least 21 and older to read this stuff.
Okay.
But I um, decided like you got to do something. And when I went through my divorce, I wanted to lean into other people to help them. And I started doing workshops. I started doing, I've always done public speaking my whole life because when you're raised in with ministers and people that's in the community, you don't have no choice because you're all around it. I mean, you do, but you don't.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things I love to do. I love to motivate people. I love the power of words. I love that words can either bring you up, but words can also tear you down. I also love the fact that you can shift someone's perspective and trajectory based on your story. And the power of storytelling. So that's something I live for through my professional development or speaking engagements that I do under Strength to Say, as well as Let's Get Lit.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
you said something earlier about it really hit me saying standing can be lonely when you're standing for what is right.
Hmm.
And I feel like it kind of really resonates with me for today because I feel as though there are less people that are there are a lot of people that know what is right, but there are less people speaking than ever before to stand up for it. And so we need more people to stand up for what is right. So it isn't so lonely.
Hmm.
But um, and educators lead by example. You're talking a lot about that too, by leading to show people and to be like a trailblazer, to like break that path, break down some space to kind of lead the way to let others follow behind. And can you talk a little bit about, I guess, how you feel when you finally do beat down that path enough, right? Like, what are some of the things that happen after you realize, wow, we really made it through?
Well, what I gained from my various path beating experiences was different nuances of who I am. And the beauty in that is so many people say broken crayons still color. And there is beauty in brokenness, but there is also a caution because oftentimes in one's brokenness, they can become wedded to that type of a life. I can't function without dysfunction. I wed myself to broken people to the point where it's not healing, it is trauma bonding. And
Yeah.
if we're not
Hmm.
careful, we begin to gravitate towards these various traumatic, trauma-filled experiences where everybody is victimizing themselves. No one is a vibrant thinker. They still want their broken tidbit of a crayon to try to color, when in actuality, you use that experience to rebuild and affirm and to stand stronger and to allow people to see that you're broken but you're not out. You may be bent but you have not died. And whenever we have life within our body, when we have breath within our lungs, it is a new opportunity within a new day to take what I did not like, what I did not get, and how do I repurpose that brokenness to now be a stepping stone opposed to a stumbling block. So
Hmm.
we have an option to have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And too many of us, I loved Harry Potter when I was I had my daughter my freshman year in college, and I did not want to not graduate because I wanted her to know that although things happen, you got to finish what you started. So my advisor said, go to your local community college and we'll send you all the classes you need to get your liberal arts degree. And I took this creative writing class and we read Harry Potter, the first one. And when we were watching some of the movies, one of the scenes was Harry sitting in front of this mirror. And the mirror was an image of his parents. And he was older now and he's standing there with his parents, but it was not real. And Dumbledore came to him and tapped him on his shoulder. And he said to him, you can't just sit here gazing at something that's not ever going to happen again. Your parents are not going to be here. And it's unfortunate, basically, what Dumbledore is saying to him. It is unfortunate that he came and killed your parents when you were a child. But what can you now do? What can you now become that your parents did not have the opportunity to do? So that is one of the things that I look to see and be is although these things have happened to me, if I do gaze into a mirror, it is not to get fixated on that thing, to have me wasting time, but it is fixation to remind me that although this happened, this was a comma, not a period. And if you confuse your commas in life for periods, you will lose traction. You will lose action and you will stunt your own growth, not because you could not, but because you chose to sit and get and die.
Wow, you
Wow.
spoke so much truth
Yeah.
there. And One thing that you said that was really interesting to me was talking about trauma bonding.
Hmm.
And, there's a lot of that happens that can be important in certain aspects of healing. But
Absolutely.
but what I connected that to and what you said essentially, if I'm hearing this right, is that sometimes we can, and I've experienced this myself, I've seen it with other people and connect with other people where the broken thing, the difficult thing becomes identity.
Hmm.
And that's not to say that you just need to forget bad things have ever happened because they will always leave a scar, right?
Hmm.
But it's how do we use that? And sometimes I feel I've definitely seen people, and I've been there myself, where it's like, oh, my art can only come from being broken.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I want to say, but it can also come from joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I just had to throw that in there. But
Mm.
speaking of joy, I want to know, I keep saying it. Tell us about Get Lit
Yeah,
because I
let's
don't
hear
want to
about
get
Get
all the way
Lit.
to the end and be like, oh, we didn't talk about this.
You know what
Sure.
it is, and that's the whole point of liberation. Let's Get Lit stands for liberating individuals through literary text. And what we have to understand is liberation comes through storytelling. Liberation comes through understanding not only your why, but the people around you. And that's what literacy offers. It offers us the opportunity to step into worlds we never may be able to go to. Like I was just reading this book. You all should read it. It's amazing. It's called Harlem Rhapsody. And it was during the time of the birth of the Harlem Renaissance. And I may never, which I won't, because of gentrification of Harlem, I may never see Harlem like it was in 1920. But the words that Victoria wrote and how she was able to make it lively and alive for me as I sat there for that 1 week. I couldn't sleep. My insomnia was bothering me. And I was like, where my book? And that's what Let's Get Lit is about. It's about exciting our families and our children around literacy, understanding that we have to be critical and analytical thinkers, speakers, writers, creators, owners, that literacy is everywhere all the time. Literacy is immersed in the arts. And unfortunately, when you think about education and cuts, even in the community, what is the first to go? Reading teachers, reading specialists, and the arts.
Mhm.
These are spaces and places that many of our young people and adults thrive. But Let's Get Lit also wanted to help be a bridge because many parents that I worked with over the years would share their stories of trauma that they experienced in the halls of learning. And now their children are released in some of those same halls where healing never took place. So now, how do I interact with a space that hurt me, that I didn't get what I needed? So
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure parents are able to get lit with their children. Everything we do is family oriented. This Wednesday, we're going to have a lit family literacy financial literacy program at Fight Village. Why?
Mhm.
Because I believe that if you don't include the family, then we're not going to move the needle. We're not going to change the trajectory of our community. So while the parents are getting the class on financial literacy, so are the children. I'm doing a pilot right now with JCC on Let's Get Lit swimming edition for water literacy because research have shown that many of children in urban settings drown. Why? Because some of their parents had traumatic experiences. So they bleed that fear and trepidation into their children. So I want to help everyone collectively to overcome the various fears they have. So Let's Get Lit gives cursive classes. We do a summer family literacy program for fifth to eighth grade. I just got funding to pilot mentoring program for young men. We also do a community give back, which is literacy, like a literacy block party. where I give out over 4,000 brand new books by African American authors from pre-K all the way to adult. There's Lugias, there's Zumba, there's a DJ, there's food, there's small businesses. There's also community partners because I want the community to see the importance of literacy in varied mediums, that they see the importance that books in hand is not something that is obsolete, it is necessary.
Mhm.
I also build home libraries. Research is shown in most urban homes that there's an average of maybe 2 to 4 books. So I wanted to change that because books can also be expensive. So every time I go, I was just at number 8 school. I always give out brand new books or gently used books to the children, and they get to choose them. I also do Cooley Comics, where children are able to go down to the library and they're able to create their own superhero, which is themselves using AI. And they
Mhm.
talk about a story that they've overcome. And they are now able to be published authors. And they're able to go and show their family, like, look at me, look at my story, look at what I've created. So we're always looking to see literacy in action. We're always seeking to show that parents, you are your child's first teacher. We want you to step into that. We want you to know that you are equipped. You don't have to have a master's in education to be effective and impactful. But we also need to not, like you go into a doctor's office and they want to talk to you way up here, like I didn't get my degree in that. I need you to break that thing down. And
Yeah,
I tell parents, we want to equip you with the vocabulary. Words mean something. So you don't have to be intimidated when someone says,
right.
your child struggles with phonemic awareness. You say, you know what? That's a broad stroke. Could you be more clear and concise about how Michelle and Malik can improve on that area? And also, how can I, as a parent, walk alongside you to help at home? So, I also do family book clubs where I take a book. We just did a book last year, Clayton Bird Goes Underground, and I give them a folder where it gives them a writing tool, a reading tool, speaking tool. It gives them everything that they would be immersed in a classroom. So the parents feel empowered. The children see that, oh, I can't go home and play uh, shoots and ladders because now my parents are equipped with the tools that are needed. So that's just a little tidbit in the last 2 years that I've been able to do with Let's Get Lit. And I'm constantly vision casting. I'm constantly just trying to push the needle for people to see that literacy is our greatest social justice issue of our generation, that we need to start talking about it all the time, that we need to
Mhm.
understand that 57% of residents in Rochester 16 and older are reading at a basic proficiency level equivalent to 6th grade, and that 11% of third graders in 2023 in the Rochester City School District were reading on level. That we just had a teacher at Franklin High School that was put on Facebook by the children that he's going to sleep every day in class, and they took a picture of that, and he teaches English. So if we're not very careful, are we purposely creating deficits for children of color in urban settings when we have these type of experiences that would not be tolerated anywhere else? So that's why I had to break away and do my thing my way to interrupt some of the nonsense like what I just shared in the
Mhm.
statistics and the realized experience with a sleeping teacher in action since October for our children. So that's a little snippet of Let's Get Lit.
That was not a little snippet. That was an amazing like journey you just brought us through.
Yes,
Oh man,
absolutely.
there's so much you're doing. I like how do you have the time for all that? I mean,
Listen,
oh,
I've been up since 2:30 this morning doing work.
jeez.
Yeah,
Jeez.
so I've been working since 2:30 in the AM.
Oh my
But
Yeah.
God.
when you're passionate, what I've learned since I started Let's Get Lit, when you're passionate about something, it's not work.
Yeah.
When you're passionate about something, it is doing what you love that you know is going to have, as Chris Brown
Hmm.
has in his song with the residuals that you gain from doing what you're passionate about is so just invigorating to the point where you don't even realize that you about to crash because you want to make a difference. It's that life and death right now. And I think when people understand that literacy is life or death for so many of our young people, especially our African American boys. And if we don't begin to put that type of time and mindset shifting and being innovative into it, if not you, then who? And that's
Yeah.
what I keep telling myself when I get tired. Um, I tell myself, if not you, then who?
Yeah.
And I have two boys, and I look at them, and my son's father was murdered when he was 7 years old, and I look at that. And I that is what pushes me when I went to various students' funerals who were Black young men. When I go and visit my former students in jail, when I see some of them who give me a hug and said, Miss, I wish I would have had you for a teacher past sixth grade.
Hmm.
That's what gives me motivation when I feel like the grants aren't coming in quick enough or people are not understanding why this is so important. I look at the two young men that I have in my home, and I also look at all of the children that I've taught, because when I was teaching, I didn't look at them as students. I looked at them just like my own children. And that's what motivates me, because if I don't have the same love that I have for my own, then this will burn you out,
Hmm.
because the stakes are that high that I
Yeah.
don't want to see my own children fail. Then I have to work to make sure, to the best of my ability, I may not be able to do everything, but this one thing, I'm going to try my best. So when the rented breath from my body leaves, as my grandfather told me before he passed away 2 years ago, what is your legacy going to be, Cleonda? What is it that is going to be left that people can look to when you're no longer here? And that is what motivates me every day, that I think about I could be taken from here at any point.
Hmm.
And I say to myself, what are you leaving? What is it that people are going to eulogize you and say? What is it that they're going to say about your work, your sacrifice? What is it that people are going to remember and glean from? And every day I have to preach my eulogy through my lived experiences right now. So although I'll be looking up in somebody's casket, I will know that the life I lived, the dash between 1980, August 29th, and whenever the Lord calls me home, that I could close my eyes and know that when I dropped in this thing called life, the ripples made a tremendous impact and that it changed lives.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I'm sorry for the losses that you've had, but
Yes.
honestly, I really am inspired by what you did with those memories to honor them. And, attacking literacy through all different avenues, especially including the family, and is so important. As a teacher, I didn't end up becoming a teacher. My wife is a kindergarten teacher. I went through the wheels, and I have taught classes and stuff at the college level and everything. But, I teach in other ways. I coach and other things. And I will say that, some teachers, they have one bad day and they can, in that one bad day,
Yeah.
turn a student off for life,
Yep.
Yes.
and
Mhm. Yep.
that's why it's so critical to have programs like yours, really, to get everyone on board. I think about the child who comes home excited about something that they learned, and then the parent being intimidated because they don't know what they're talking about. So
Mhm.
they do what they can to kind of help or support, but sometimes they even get frustrated themselves and shut that child down.
Hmm.
And it's that's why it's so important to like, have the family all involved. And I mean, that's one thing I was kind of really honing in on when you were talking about your little spiel. That was a great gigantic spiel, which was great because you really painted a wonderful picture of what this program is doing and can do for not only the family but the community.
Right.
And when you're
Yeah.
talking about your legacy and what you leave behind, the best like part of it is, well, in my opinion, is that you have left these tidbits and these crumbs and these things that all are being built up and will continue.
Hmm.
And it won't just be something that you're remembered for, but something that you've inspired and continue to inspire.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I'm
But
sorry.
I guess what I'm trying to say is thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what I'm really trying
Exactly.
to say is
It's
I am
very
so thankful.
inspiring. I mean,
Yeah.
um, you have an incredible insight into what the children all around you need. Do you ever get situations where a family is like, hey, I'm just not interested in being involved, or whatever, they're so busy,
Mm-hmm.
working, that they're like, I just can't do this. How do you handle situations if they come up like that, or do they?
I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but beep beep. But I don't have those situations
Oh, well,
because when
amazing.
when you have when you have something that is not only inclusive but is exciting, it is drawing, it is meeting needs, it creates space for like in my summer family literacy program, one of my parents is a doula.
Mhm.
And she was like,
Mm,
"Oh, I might not be able to be there, but his godmom will come." And I said, "Well, that's what's up. Swap out. Let's go."
yeah,
She's like, "Cause I don't want to miss it." And she gonna tell me. And when you make something that is engaging, uplifting, encouraging, thought-provoking, um, people want to gravitate towards it. People want to um see how they could rearrange their schedule. If it's something that is going to bring life, liberty, and what they say, the pursuit of happiness,
Yeah.
people will move mountains to do it.
yeah,
And that's what I did. And I brought people there that they can talk to. So about rent and food insecurities, well, that's a part of being lit and liberated. So I brought people there that they could talk to in those spaces. And that's what it's about. It's about creating avenues for people to see that you too matter. It is a shame that the bodegas are charging $8 for a dozen of eggs, and how is that impacting you and your child's ability to show up if they're hungry? How does that
Mhm.
impact? So they're able to see that that's a part of literacy too. Stability of housing, being able to get a good night's rest. So we begin to see that literacy goes beyond the book and bind. So that is something else that we do. We create a space for people to shine and to be excited about learning.
Yeah. There's a practicality about it.
Hmm.
I think about some of the students that and even myself, like where does algebra really come in
Hmm.
life, right? And you're not only teaching like literature and what you're teaching, what it means in your life and how you can use it to make your community stronger, both now and in the future.
yeah,
So
Absolutely.
super cool.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
What would you How can people in the community in the greater Rochester area and even beyond support Let's Get Lit? Like, what
Yeah.
is it you
How can we
need
help?
from the wider community, um, to get the word out there and to support the programs you have?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So, when you're a nonprofit and a newer nonprofit, the biggest um call to action is finances. I can't do anything without financial resources. And
Sure.
one of the things that makes me very unique is, for an example, with my summer family literacy program, I hire culinary people to cook. They have home cooked meals. So everything I do in its authentic way is to create realized experiences for my families. Um, Also, getting books. I use strictly African American authors because I feel like their voices are not considered the canon. And there are a number of African American authors that have written across the genres that are not highlighted and uplifted. So, you want to go to Barnes and Nobles or a Hippocampo and grab some African American authors' books. That would be a blessing. If you would like to, because we also tutor, if you want to say, how can I come alongside and donate some time for children and adults who are struggling with reading and math? Let's get together. Um, if you would like to donate for us to be able to feed families when we're doing our programs, that's another opportunity to help. If you want to say, you know what, I want to go and order the cursive books when you do your cursive classes,
Mhm.
that's another way to help. If you want to sponsor one of the various programs that we offer, the family book clubs, that's another way that you can help. So there's always room and Let's Get Lit for community stakeholders and partners to come alongside to further by having fundraisers. If you want to say, Cleanda, I have some friends over, we're going to be at a space and place or my home, and I would love for you to come over and share about Let's Get Lit. I'm down for that too. I have a fundraiser coming up in October. If you want to come through,
Mhm.
that's another opportunity. So it's so many ways to show up. I have a website, liberatingliteracy.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. My phone number is 585-261-4823. So if you want to call me and say, you know what, Cleon, I would love to learn more, or how can I come alongside to help? You have those ways to get in touch with me. And I also have my email, which is author Clianda, Clianda Florence, Florence @gmail.com. And we could set up a time to talk, or I can email you the synopsis of Let's Get Lit so you can have an idea of the mission, vision, goals, and some of the things we've already done within the short time that we've been in action.
I
Awesome.
heard that a
Yeah.
local, really awesome local magazine wrote a story about you. Yes, Cleanda is also featured in our books issue, March, April
Nice.
issue of 585 magazine. What by the time this comes out, we're probably looking early summer, right, Nick?
Probably, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Mm.
So go back and go to the website and read all about Cleanda there.
mhm.
You can always ask friends, go ask your library for a copy of the magazine and
Mhm.
check it out. Well,
Yeah,
because we want to get the word out. I am so glad. So, listeners, I met Cleanda, God, was it September? You came
Yeah,
to a
Canada
happy hour?
Gateway.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
for those of you that don't know, our magazine has every time we have a new issue every 2 months, we have a launch party happy hour. And we had one in Canandaigua at the lake house. And Cleonta came and I met you there. And I thought, okay, I got to keep this in my mind for a story, but life goes on. And then Sarah Mead, who we've had on the show and is a writer for us, is, hey, I think we had to write about Clianda Florence. Yes, thank you for also having that in my mind. And now here we are. I'm
yeah.
just so happy I met you. I say this every issue, every podcast, Nick knows, but I always feel so like enlivened after.
Mhm.
Like today, it's not been a bad day. I just had to put
Yeah.
that out there. It's just been an extremely busy
Yeah.
day. And
Hmm.
then I'm
Yeah.
sitting here and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is good. This is a refresh for my own heart. So thank you for
Yeah, and
that.
Cleona, you're like one of those people that sort of make me feel bad about saying I'm having a frustrating day or that I'm busy. Because everyone tells me, Nick, you're so busy. How do you find time to have two podcasts, a full-time job, be a hockey coach, do this, do that, do this? And I'm like, I am nothing in comparison to some of the people that I interview on this
I'll
show.
tell you, I don't get up
Yeah.
at 2:30 in the
Yeah.
morning to work.
If I did, you would not see me here. I'd be like, oh yeah, we got to cancel that recording, Christine. There's no way. I was up at 2:30. But
What
thank you. I mean, you're doing God's
Yeah.
work. You're doing so much for our community in the 585. And um, oh, I'm so pleased to have you. I could talk to you for like, 16 episodes of this, but you're a
I
very
know.
busy person
I
and
know.
you're
Listen,
doing
I'll
all,
always make
yeah,
time for you all.
yeah,
I love this, and I want to thank you all. I want to just share something real quick.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
looking to with my LLC Strength to Say, my mom had cancer 3 times. Well, actually more than that now. And my great grandma passed away from breast cancer. And
Oh,
back in 2015, my OBGYN and my primary care doctor was writing me like sea
Mhm.
biscuit about getting this
yeah. The
BRCA
BRCA
testing.
gene test.
And
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm 30 something. And they were like, right, right, right. And I end up going finally and doing it. And I found out I was BRCA1 positive, which is like the
Oh,
worst one you could have because I
Jeez.
had like a 87% chance of having, basically, I would have gotten it,
Mhm.
breast and ovarian cancer. So I did the preventative surgery in 2017, and I had a total hysterectomy and a double mastectomy. And I used my own body to rebuild my breast. And when you choose that, you have a lot of scarring. So my surgery was from 7:30 in the morning till 5 at night. And you're cut from hip bone to hip bone, and you the sewing and things, so you have scars. And I met so many different women, and my mantra for Strength to Say is be bold, be great, be you. And a part of the reason why I was divorced was that I didn't feel that I was whole anymore because of the scarring and being afraid of showing the scars. And he started to pivot and started another relationship.
Mhm.
But I ran into so many different women who also dealt with a lot of either self-esteem issues, not feeling like a woman anymore because you don't have the naturalness of whatever that means and whatever that looks
yeah.
like now. And then having the boldness to now show your new self to your partner and being bold in that. So look, be on the lookout. I'm gonna do a I am not my scars, because some of us have physical scars that are a reminder um, of something we've had to make a decision to be preventative and to stand up. But some of us have emotional scars that may not be as prominent as some of us who've had to harvest from our back and we have these huge lines, or from our hip to hip and that rebonding. But all of those scars tell a story. And all of those scars can be a reminder to keep us trapped, but they can also be freeing to remind us of the life that we still have to live that others were not given that opportunity to, because they waited too late to do something about it. So be on the lookout. I'm going to do a be bold, be great, be you. You're not your scars.
Mhm.
To just remind women and men about the importance of getting cancer screening earlier and not to be fearful of that. And the literacy in that, knowledge is power. And although it may be scary, you need to know where you stand, and really helping women and men to get past some of that fear that locks us out, and just being present and knowing that you are great. Greatness is within you, and therefore greatness must come forth.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Your
Yeah. Thank
story
you.
is so captivating. so insightful and so inspiring. Thank you so much for being with us today. I have a lot to think about. I'm so glad we do this podcast, Nick, because I get
Yeah.
to meet people like this. So
See, I have you converted all the way now.
yes.
She thought about being the coach. She's like, yeah, that'd be fun. And now you see why I do it.
That's
I'm
right.
like, we have to change the world, Nick. What are we
Right.
gonna
That's
do?
it.
Yeah. We just got it one person at a time and got to get your message out. And I'm so proud to have your message here. And we're gonna share everything, not only just the podcast, but we'll share everything in the notes too, how to connect with you. And looking forward to kind of making an impact through you as well. So
Well, thank you both again for this
thanks.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Check out our website, www.thatsoundsterrific.com, to see a full list of episodes and learn more about our hosts, Nick Koziel and Christine Green. Be sure to find us on your favorite social media platforms or podcast listening service by searching That Sounds Terrific, and feel free to give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy our show. Until next time.